society, and it is observed that not only women's reproductive capacities and mobility are controlled by men, and simultaneously the economic, political and social cultural institutions are also dominated by the male superiority. So here I would like to show the clips from the film Satta A Power, but I mean I'm really sorry that there is not the embedded of the subtitles. So, but the main scene, it was depicted that the protagonist, when she wants to portrayed herself as a decision maker, but her family, didn't allow him that she can also take part in a business or the politics or any the social sphere. So, and her there is a conversation between her husband Vivek. Where the Vivek directly introduced or claimed that the woman's position is only confined within the domestic sphere, or the woman available only, woman should be available only on the bed. Yeah.
अरे मैं तुम्हें बेडरूम में ढूंढ रहा हूं, तुम यहाँ खड़े हो। आओ। क्या हुआ?
विवेक, क्या मैं तुम्हारे फैमिली बिजनेस का भी हिस्सा नहीं बन सकती?
बाबा की बात का बुरा मान गई। बात ऐसी नहीं है अनु।
तो फिर कैसी बात है? तुमने पहले कहा कि माँ और बाबा को मेरा नौकरी करना पसंद नहीं है, तो मैंने छोड़ दी।
Come on अनु, just try to understand। ये देखो, बाबा को पॉलिटिक्स और बिजनेस में औरतों का बोलना बिल्कुल पसंद है। मेरा मतलब है just try to understand। हाँ, दोनों पुराने ख्यालात के हैं, वक्त के साथ बदल जाएंगे।
तो मुझे शादी के पहले एक रूल बुक दे देते कि शादी के बाद अनु तुम्हें ये करना है और ये नहीं करना है। घर बैठे बैठे क्या करूं, मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा।
Go out, see films, meet friends। घर के काम में इंटरेस्ट ले लो। क्यों? Come on, cheer up। I'm waiting for you in the bedroom।
So, historically, the process of the woman empowerment and involvement in the Indian politics was linked to the development of the Indian struggle for independence, but it had sanction of the national political hierarchy, including those forces ideologically committed to women's subordinate position on behalf of the tradition. And when in 1917, the Soviet was first country recognized to give the women the unconditional rights to the vote, it had an impact in Indian politics, and where the benefit to Indian women in getting the right to vote without having to go through the kind of confrontations or the issue that women in West faced. So it was true that in the context of the 20th century, the nationalists refused to make the women's questions to an issue of the political negotiations with the colonial state. Moreover, they granted women to vote without need for a suffrage movement. And in other words, by containing the real history of the women's questions within the middle class home and colonial public sphere has effectively degenerated. And it was observed that in the 20th century political sphere, that on one hand, women ceased to be relevant in the next phase of the nationalist struggle. On the other hand, the women's political rights were resolved in the cultural terms as spiritual bearers of the Indian nationhood. And by 1930s, the major women's organizations were also deliberating the questions of the reserved seats in the political bodies apart from the women's voting rights. And nonetheless, in all the Indian women's conferences in Bombay, in All India Women Conference in Bombay, Sarojini Naidu unequivocally declared that the women did not want preferential preferential treatment on the ground of the women's inferiorities. In fact, in the Gandhian era, it was observed that the Gandhi emphasized the women's participations in freedom struggle, but he focused the self-sacrificed image of the woman, rather highlighting their political entitlement. So it could narrate that the Gandhi's relationship with the woman were the conflict for the turning demands for reservations or the special electorates into the sign of the anti-nationalist betrayal. And at the highest of the political nationalism, the public glorifications of the femininity became the very ground for preserving women as the illegitimate and their demands of the special political representations. So the limitations of women in politics became clear with the end of the freedom struggle. A large section of the women who had spontaneously participated in the anti-British movement, one would have expected the recognition of their role by the leadership of the political parties in the first general election held in independent India. In fact, in recent web series which recently released in Amazon, the name of the series is Panchayat. It has been also depicted that the when women have seen as family careers to the exclusions on the roles, when there is a very little help generally from the male members of the family. In fact, the social stereotyping is backed by the state negligence in providing any backup structural facilities to help lessen and the burden of the domestic responsibility. And in this series, they are also depicted that the women in politics have to work harder to longer for the recognition of it all. And there have been the conceptual comments about the women, they are, I mean, if she will select in the panchayat or the local legislative bodies, I mean, her mobility always, I mean, controlled by the male members of the family, and especially the by her husband. So I would like to show the clips from the panchayat. Yeah.
बिना पढ़े लगा रहे हैं आप पे भरोसा करके, हैं? हाँ बताइए। ओके। सुने हैं कि परीक्षा में फेल कर गए आप।
एग्जैक्टली फेल नहीं हुआ हूँ, नंबर कम आए।
माने जहाँ आपको एडमिशन मिलना चाहिए था वहाँ आपको एडमिशन नहीं मिलेगा ना अब?
हाँ, वहाँ तो नहीं मिलेगा।
तो फिर फेल ही हुए ना। ऐसा मन को उदास मत करिए। हर एक का अपना अपना क्षमता होता है। कोई कलेक्टर बन जाता है तो कोई क्लर्क बन के रह जाता है।
मैंने भी सुना है आप 26 जनवरी को झंडा नहीं फहराती हैं।
ना, ये काम तो रिंकी के पापा ही करते धरते हैं।
पास वाले गोपालपुर पंचायत में भी महिलाएं प्रधान हैं, वहाँ तो झंडा वही फहराती हैं। हाँ, लेकिन वो तो ऑफिस वगैरह भी जाती हैं, सारा काम संभालती हैं, ये सब पेपर वगैरह पे साइन करती हैं।
Dr. Holder, we
यार,
can't
सबका
hear
अपना अपना
the
क्षमता
sound
होता
of the clip.
है। ये यहाँ
Okay, just 1 minute. Yeah.
You need to share also the sound.
Yeah, just 1 minute. Sure. Is it also audible now?
बिना पढ़े लगा रहे हैं आप
Is it
पे भरोसा
audible?
करके, हैं? हाँ
I
बताइए।
think there is sound now.
Okay.
Can you explain what happens in the scene?
सुने हैं कि परीक्षा में फेल कर गए आप।
Yeah, the person is basically
Exactly feeling
appointed
how
as a as a panchayat workers. I mean the local panchayat in India. It's sort of the legislative, the local body. I mean which is basically taking care of the development of the village. So this person, he is appointed as a the worker of the panchayat, and this lady, I mean she is the main head of the panchayat. But I mean when the person he came, and this lady asked him that I hear that you didn't able to get success in your exam, I mean which you were expected. But this lady, I mean she, since she was the part of the panchayat head, and she had to also the I mean she had to be the decision maker. But on behalf, I mean whatever I just discussed before, that it has been found that, I mean after the reservation issue, maybe I mean the women, they came forefront of the politics. I mean they participated, I mean they came in front as a the decision maker, but their decision, it was always controlled by the male members of the family. So when the lady, I mean this person met to the this lady, so he also asked that I hear that you are not participating in any official works, and on behalf of you, your husband is only controlling the stuff. In fact, in 26th January, I mean all the leaders or the higher, I mean the head of the legislative bodies, they, I mean they are basically the flag, it was also the, I mean the 26th January, I mean the flag. But this lady didn't participate in any official work. So this is the I mean the dichotomy, where the person, he mentioned that her political activities, which should be expected, I mean for that, I mean she elected, I mean she didn't I mean spontaneously participates on these political works, but on behalf of her, everything, I mean her mobility and every decision, it was controlled by her husband.
माने जहाँ आप,
मैंने भी सुना है आप 26 जनवरी को झंडा नहीं फहराती हैं।
ना, ये काम तो रिंकी के पापा ही करते रहते हैं।
पास वाले गोपालपुर पंचायत में भी महिलाएं प्रधान है, वहाँ तो झंडा वही फहराती हैं।
And there this boy mentioned that Paswala, I mean the just near village, there was also the woman who is basically the panchayat head, but she has participated in every aspects of the political I mean the affairs.
हाँ, लेकिन वो तो ऑफिस वगैरह भी जाती हैं, सारा काम संभालती हैं, ये सब पेपर वगैरह पे साइन करती हैं। खैर, सबका अपना अपना क्षमता होता है। ये यहाँ अंगूठा छू लो, अंगूठा लगा दीजिए।
So, although the announcement, I mean, in 2010 in Indian politics, it was the quite remarkable time, because the 1/3 of the seats of the local, state and national level indicates the increased number of the women in legislative bodies. And although with the announcement of the reservations of women opened the new chapters of the debates in the context of the women political empowerment, and in the film Godmother Samsodhan Panchayat, they criticized that the reservation policy brought out the authentic political empowerment of the women for the reservation issues, which was just the eyewash, which indicated that the basically women were impromptly swayed by the influential male relatives or the other male politicians. So, in the context of the film, Indian film, it was visualized that participation of women in politics was confined between the elite class women, and the political rights of backward Dalits and minorities women were suppressed and neglected by the hierarchies. The film, like the Deval Rajniti Bandit Queen, they highlighted the monopoly of the elite class women in Indian politics, and simultaneously the Shekhar Kapur's Bandit Bandit Queen, it's visualized the problem of the post-colonial marginalizations of minorities and in the consolidations of the Hindu upper caste dominance. So I would like to just show the clips from the film.
Queen.
के बाद हमें आत्मरक्षा की लाइसेंस दी जाए, सभी बागियों के बच्चों को मुफ्त की शिक्षा दी जाए।
आप सभी लोगों के चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब की मौजूदगी में मशहूर डकैत फूलन देवी अपनी गैंग के साथ हथियार डालने को आई है। डकैत फूलन देवी
हमें खुली जेल में रखा जाए और 8 साल बाद
It was argued that women enter the corridors of the power and they will be able to take up the women's issues within the state structures and also affects the changes the party and the local bodies. In the documentary film Gulab Gang, it's based on the Sampath Devi Pal's activities. They are highlighted that the matters come to a head last week of the 2012 when the gang members have stormed the Attara police stations and demanding the release of the parallel husbands of a gang member and Sushila, and he was detained following a dispute over the constructions of the water channel in Attara. And Sampath Devi Pal's gang has around 35 members initially, and a fresh recruitment drives was being launched with the 200 as the registration fees for enlisting the gang. And filmmaker Nishtha Jain will be she has depicted that in her documentary Gulab Gang that the city of the feminism and the cities of the photos in which she has leaded in the dignity of the neighborhood and studios giving the shape to a small and the large pictures of the perfect dream. In fact, when the Nishtha first headed of the Sampath Pal and her Gulab Gang in 2008, and she was surprised because this movement, it was began in the backward region like the Bundelkhand, and gang had 70,000 members after 2008, and now they are almost the over of the 4 lakhs, and most women are uneducated and have limited exposure beyond their homes and feels to come from the lower strata of the society. So I would like to show the clip from the film, the documentary Gulab Gang. It was quite
Can you just stop for a second, please? Can you be a little bit more silent because we don't hear up front? Like the microphone is towards you and we can't see what we can't hear. Thank you. Yes, doctor, please continue.
Yeah, so now I would like to show the clip from the film, the documentary by Nistha Jain.
Okay, doctor, sorry for the interruption. Please continue. We are listening to you.
पुलिस आई है कि नहीं? ये क्या देखी जलिया? ठाठे मागी नहीं लाग रही?
ठाठे में हल्का गिला की तो पानी डाल बुझावा।
वाद पारा है का तो पानी बुझावा। अरे 11 बजत रहे, ज्यादा नहीं बजत रहे ना, दिमाग खराब करा हमार बेकार का। अरे तुम भी हड़िया मरी है, अंदर कहीं नहीं गए? कहीं नहीं गए? ये लड़का क्यों शादी हो गया का एक बार?
उनकी खत्म हुई जब उस बार अपने मायके में ही खत्म हुई थी, इसी लड़की की औरत।
मोही मामी ने कहे खबरदार।
जाने हम नहीं मठे रहा हुआ न तो मर रहा है।
खाना बनाते समय आग लगने से मर गई है। हम किसी प्रकार की कोई पुलिस कार्रवाई नहीं चाहते, हम पूर्ण संतुष्ट हैं, तो हम उसमें क्या करें?
मैंने सोची कि मैं सदस्य ऐसे नहीं बनाऊंगी, जब उनकी खुद की जिज्ञासा होगी तो हम सदस्य बनाएंगे। यही आए दिन हत्या। मैं संपत पाल हूँ और मैं एक महिलाओं का संगठन चलाती हूँ। लड़ाई में चप्पल टूट गया।
ये हमारे बच्चे के साथ हादसा हो गया, या हमारे बच्चे ने किसी के साथ हादसा कर दिया, बाद में कहते हैं कि गुलाबी गैंग में जुड़ी, तुम अपने बच्चे को जेल भेजा दो। हमने आज से गुलाबी गैंग छोड़ दिया।
So the filmmaker, this film, the Gulab Gang, it was basically shot for 45 to 50 days in the Bundelkhand between September 2010 and February 2011. And when the gang was almost the 1,50,000 strong member, and it was led by 13 commanders in different districts. And it's not going to be a simple story of the revolutions, and many women have explained, Nishtha, that there is the different understanding of the empowerment and the exercising their rights. And when I had the communications with Nishtha, so she that time explained that the woman, as a woman, she observed that the various stage of the consciousness and empowerment, it was articulated from their concept of the idea and empowerment. So maybe it was not connected with the quote unquote the theoretical, the idea of the empowerment. So Nishtha observed that the members of the gang taking up the cases and pertaining the dowry death, sexual assaults, women drawn from the the intercaste marriages and beyond the boundaries of the feminism, looking into day-to-day issues like the issuance of the ration cards and all. And the women they are such rallying phase and traveling in the unsafe areas armed with their lathis, and it's a stick, and has explained, Nishtha, that initially the gang was calm under the flag for using the stick, and though the women still travel with the stick, and they do not give into the violence, and the women use their lathis for their self-defense. Older women also use them as the walking stick. So I want to conclude my discussion with the documentary, the last scene of the documentary of the Gulab Gang. The filmmakers have visualized that the generally women have in a short while learned the skill of the managing, debating the policy making, and they have generated a lot of the confidence is not only themselves but among its neighboring women and villages. The women are more likely and less afraid of approaching women cooperators directly rather than the male ones, and whatever the women have contested regardless of whether they have won or lost, and they created the waves of the confidence and determinations and films from the this Gulab Gang. However, the main reasons for encouraging those women who has felt like stepping into the political world is not such the reasons or the fact that they can bring the services for women or that they will humanize or the clean up the politics, but their presence will herald the erosions of the one area of the sexual divisions of the labor between the men and women in the society, men in the outside public world and the women in the private world in the home, and it will challenge the cliche that the politics is no place for women, and the acceptance of the women as leaders will in the long run change to some degree of the prevalent humiliating and the considering the attitudes towards the women in general. So I would like to conclude my discussions with the scene from the Gulab Gang.
दलितों की इसलिए लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं कि मैं भी तो एक दलित हूँ। दलित जात से थोड़ी कोई होता है, दलित तो एक गरीबी से, जो महिलाएं सताई जाती हैं, जो गरीब सताए जाते हैं, वही एक दलित। हमारा देश पुरुष प्रधान था, लड़के का कोई बहिष्कार नहीं करता, लड़कियों को करता है। लड़की पैदा हो गई तो लोगों को दुख, बहू आ गई काम नहीं किया तो दुख, और नारी नारी की ही दुश्मन है। सबसे ज्यादा नारियों के लिए ही ये संगठन बनाया गया है कि पहले नारी जागृत हों, इसलिए जरूरत थी कि गुलाबी गैंग बनना चाहिए, महिलाओं का एकता होना चाहिए और हर गांव में संगठन होना चाहिए, एक गांव नहीं बचना चाहिए। पुलिस आई है कि नहीं? ये क्या दखी जलिया ठाठे मागी नहीं लाग रही?
ठाठे में हल्का गिला की में पानी डालकर बुझावा।
वाद पर है का तो पानी बुझावा। अरे 11 बजत रहे, ज्यादा नहीं बजत रहे ना, दिमाग खराब करा हमार बेकार का। अरे तुम भी हट मरी है तो अंदर कहीं नहीं गए? कहीं नहीं गए। ये लड़का क्यों शादी हो गया रहा एक बार? मैंने सोची कि मैं सदस्य ऐसे नहीं बनाऊं, जब उनकी खुद की जिज्ञासा हो तो हम सदस्य बनाएंगे। यही आए दिन हत्या। मैं संपत पाल हूँ और मैं एक महिलाओं का संगठन चलाती हूँ। लड़ाई में चप्पल टूट गया।
हमारे बच्चे के साथ हादसा हो गया, या हमारे बच्चे ने किसी के साथ हादसा कर दिया, बाद में कह दें कि गुलाबी गैंग में जुड़ी तो अपने बच्चे को जेल भेजा दो। हमने आज से गुलाबी गैंग छोड़ दी।
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Howder. Thank you. It was really interesting to follow this development in India. And now I would ask our guests on the stage to share their thoughts on what we just heard, and maybe share also their own views and their own experiences. I would give first the microphone to Ms. Zaman.
Okay, sure, yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Haldar, Debjani. It's good to see you on screen, but you know, we are all missing you here and this pandemic that's going on, you know. I'm so glad that the talk ended up with the Gulabi gang, because they do make me feel very like humble. And the way, you know, these sticks were picked up symbolically and practically to against a system which is, and there was a very pertinent thought in that clip that, you know, everybody who's Dalit, you know, who doesn't have their right, of course women is the Dalit of the world. About the film clips, I wish, this is just a comment, is that all of them were subtitled, because it's just difficult for even me to follow all of them, but they were all written in the paper, so people who have access to the paper. Is a point came up in the paper which you went through very quickly, because you were, of course, giving a shortened version, is the role of women in politics, specifically to subcontinent, although here the clips were from India and the whole legislative history from India. It is very kind of similar in the whole of subcontinent, and in Bangladesh also we are having this long discussion about the role of women-only seats, and for parliament we also have reserved seats, and we also have pressure on the political party, and the whole discussion around the backlash, which Govind Nihalni's film talks about, is interesting, and how the films have picked up. I have to be honest, I think somehow the films that we call mainstream, even in your own, the clips, they kind of seem to target the problem much more boldly, you know, in the clips I have noticed. And the films which are supposed to be from the more enlightened part of the society can be like overthinking. So I don't know where Bandit Queen fits in this, but you know, there it is. But when you think of A Godmother, or another film which I was kind of missing in the paper is Adhi, because as a Bengali, as Suchitra Sen and everything. But anyway, this has been dealt, and your congratulations on the paper. It went so much in detail about the whole sort of context of it, which I really mean to pursue very minutely. And I would actually, you know, we have people from Scandinavia, we have people from other parts of the world where women in legislature is part of the daily, you know, political life, and the reflection of that in cinema has to be actually discussed very thoroughly, because it is disappointing sometimes. And I'm talking specifically about the festival, you know, the role of festival and the kind of films are chosen there. Like I mentioned, my experience is that more mainstreamish film, you know, more entertainment kind of film things, or television, they pick up women in a political role. You know, the examples are much more numerous. And but woman as a political person, when I'm kind of like offhanded thinking of all the 100 best films you ever have to watch, and how many of the women characters are, they all seem to be like bored housewives on a sexual journey or something. I can't think of many examples. And this is a generalized comment, a little flippant comment I'm making. You mentioned the role of Soviet Union and that particular 1917. I mean, of course, the influence of that event is enormous. not only in our political struggles, but to finding a role of women. I mean, now we are in a completely different stage of the history, but the very fundamental point I keep thinking, and in terms of cinema and in terms of role of women in politics and cinema, is a role of a child in our society, and the issue of caring for a child. Is child somebody who is an asset of the society? And in that case, the society and the government and the whole political structure becomes involved. Or in our new a post-modern, post-neoliberal world, a child is just an individual being where me as a parent also have to be very careful of its right. And in that case, it has now become kind of like an individual woman is giving birth to an individual child and then is basically stuck with that child for however long it is. And there is a great problem from that if we think of the child is only as an extension of that mother bearer, whatever, even if she's not a homemaker, the responsibility lies with the individual, and which is a very deep question we need to think about. And of course, in Asian societies, the traditional society think of the child as somebody part of the village, which has its good and bad things, because everybody is worried about how the length of your kurta and what you're wearing, what you're doing. There is that price to pay for that, but the point is everybody else is taking part in that rearing of the child. So these issues will have to be dealt with in a societal way, worldwide. Things will happen in different paces, but until and unless that is more dealt with, the women will be spending their time in front of the oven or the chula or whatever it is, and providing food and care. I mean, these couple of pandemic years, I think, have been so much eye-opening for so many women living in some kind of idea that, oh my God, we have made everything, we've done everything, and our maid doesn't come home for 2 days, and then the whole world breaks down. And class, which came into this paper so vividly, and that's why I'm just so glad it ended with Gulabi Gang, where that is the real fight. One last thing I wanted to mention is, this is a large question. I'll just leave that and I'll give the mic to, is that, I come from a journalistic background also. I help run a television, and we also have hierarchy of topics, which is like politics and economics and business are important topics, and there are other kind of woman kind of issues or soft stories. Same in cinema, same as in cinema, and we are all on this journey to get our role there, our space in the political field in economics. And this also has to be dealt with, that the way we know politics, the way a state is being run, is that the only way to run it? This confrontational, we are all kind of thinking of the democratic norms, election, first past the post, or, you get, like in Europe, you have this percentage-based wise, and all the European countries are worried that you're now going to have some kind of a fascist, party come into power. So the whole system is rotten to the core throughout the world. Nobody can claim that we have solved this for men or women. And this whole struggle, all the clips about, getting into the political system as it is, whether or not, there is any point in that. Or do we really want to do that? Do we really need to be in this game to be able to beat the game, where more or less, all the Godmother and all the films have the basic same stories, that you become part of the system. not more than that. You just become another player, and it is very difficult to escape that. Sorry, it seems a little pessimistic, but it's not. I know as a Bengali we are true rebels, and so I think, questioning the system through cinema and all the other tools we have is probably what I'm taking out from this very thorough study of the system that we have in place. Thank you.
If I might just add that it is good to have somebody who is pessimistic, because when we hear somebody who is really pessimistic, we kind of like try to tell them, no, you're wrong. There is some light at the end of the tunnel. And I would like to give the word to Dr. Ipshata Bharat.
It was a delight hearing you, Debjani. Thank you for the lovely presentation. And to the August gathering here, greetings from India. First of all, I definitely thank DIFF and Mr. Zamal for inviting me. So I think we are all talking about cinema as a tool for social change, and indeed cinema is a big tool for social change, and that's clear from the clips which Debjani has shown in the course of her presentation. I will just take the discussion a little further. So after I came here, I made many friends here, and the moment I spoke about Indian cinema, they were talking about Bollywood. So what is Bollywood? It's particularly a 1990s phenomenon. It's a 1990s Hindi cinema, and that actually the reason I start with Bollywood is because that's what to a large extent brought Indian cinema, or India in general also. I mean, India has always is kind of using Bollywood as a soft power as well. But if we look at 1990s Hindi cinema, which is all about Shah Rukh Khan, and I'm talking about mainstream, and I'm not talking about the parallel cinema or the indie films, but if I speak particularly about mainstream films, then it's, Dil Wale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, I think a name almost, which resonates with 1990s Hindi cinema. If we look at these films, then women have always remained in the periphery, in the mainstream Hindi cinema. And there are hardly any mainstream films during 1990s where, women are kind of carrying the narrative on their own shoulders. Of course, there is this parallel cinema, but right now I'm just talking about the mainstream. Now, post 2000, that is in the new millennium, it's a fantastic time in terms of Hindi mainstream cinema as well, because suddenly we see films like Queen, we see films like NH10, we see films like Maricom, Piku. Now, what's so interesting about this, and I'll just quickly in one line talk about these films. Queen is a narrative about this woman who, whose marriage did not take place, and so she resorts to a honeymoon by herself. Piku is interestingly about woman as a primary caregiver. So in Indian societies, men are being looked at as the primary caregiver for old age parents, but Pico's kind of completely challenges the idea, and it's the woman who is looked at as the same, and the father role, which is played by Amitabh Bachchan. It's a very mainstream film. So Amitabh Bachchan in this film is kind of averted to the idea of the daughter getting married, because he says that if you get married, who will look after me, and why should you at all get married? It's your responsibility to take care of me. So this is a very, very different idea in terms of woman and caregiving, as opposed to what is termed as idealistic in Indian society. So, but then at the same time, when I was in conversation with one of the filmmakers of a film called NH10, again a film completely led on the shoulders of a woman, and Navdeep Singh nicely said to me that, Ipshita, you're talking too much about women and women films, but it's all just herd mechanism. Ek film chal gayi, to baki bhi chalti hai, in the sense that, one film kind of ran, so now I'm going to make next 3-10 films which will be all about women. So this kind of brings to the question that it's true on a certain level that we are all looking at these films which are empowering women and mainstream films. Of course there's indie films, but these are mainstream films made by men filmmakers. So on one hand it is all very nice, but if I look at under the layers of these films, and here I kind of bring about the question that in spite of these films having these powerful narratives around women, but say suppose when we are looking at a film like Madam Chief Minister Devjani, which is also kind of a political film, or when we look at the recent film, the clips which you have seen, something as subtle as the attire. So the moment a woman becomes a politician, she's supposed to wear a certain kind of clothing. And that's not just for cinema, that's also for in real life. So for example, Nusrat Jahan, she's a very, very recent, she's joined politics in Bengal, but the moment, and she's an actress, but the moment after the pledge, she kind of posts a picture of her in a short dress. So that became national news almost. That why she being in politics, how can she wear an attire of that sort? So, and then the same thing in films, in Madam Chief Minister, or there are multiple films which are now showcasing, even the web series, interesting web series, which are kind of showcasing women in the political scenario. But look at the kind of subtle manifestations. So I think it's a very good time to be a woman in general. I completely agree to that. Particularly with regard to Indian cinema, it's a fantastic time in terms of the kind of women-centric narratives. But these are the subtle, ideas or subtle things which are still, we have a long way to go. That's all. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I add something about the costume or the dress and the power of it? Actually, there should be. I would say that independent parallel filmmakers, women and men, they have a dress code too. Yeah? And to be able to fit in, you actually have to follow that. Like you teach, you're an academic and you discuss, and there is an expectation about how you dress. And I have found, I have filmmakers, woman filmmaker making fantastic film, but she probably doesn't fit into that. I have seen that she dresses up a little more, okay? And before her trailer was seen, this was in Goa, I remember, Goa Film Bazaar. I knew her, and other was like a little bit dismissive that maybe she's not intellectual enough because she looks like a heroine rather than a filmmaker. And when the trailer came up on screen, people were like, okay, and her pitch was very successful. And about the politicians, of course, like today probably I look like a politician and a future MP. And we all fall into that. Yeah, it's but is it? It is more, patriarchy, of course, but it's also economics, yeah, because the economic role that we all play dictates. I mean, same with men. I mean, this dress code thing is very, very strong.
It's also more pertinent to women.
Yeah, in women's roles.
That was exactly what I wanted to ask. Aren't we as women more supposed to take care of our looks, of the way how we dressed, and aren't we more judged according to how we are dressed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But not only by men, by women too.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, women, we among us, sometimes we need to support each other a little bit more, I think. And there was something else in the presentation that I found really interesting, especially the last clip that we saw. The protagonist, she says that she wants to raise consciousness. I think this is also something really important, that we as women, that we are aware that there are possibilities out there, that we can change something, and that there is something wrong, because sometimes we are so used with the life that we have and with the way how things are that we don't question things. What would you say about this?
No, we don't question, because if you are a good little citizen of the world and of your country or of your system, we are all trained not to question. Because questioning is difficult, and then questioning takes away your peace of mind. It's just easy not to question. And following the norms. But the whole reason the schools exist, the education system exists, the state operates, the way the economy operates, is to make us follow a particular formula. When we don't follow that, we create problem for everybody, for ourselves to start. So the first attack is usually to try to prove you're crazy. And that has been very successfully done against the women, including burning them as witches. So this is not something happening right now. It is very old. About the soft power of cinema, and especially Bollywood or India, in the just newly post-independent India, it was very successfully used with Raj Kapoor and the whole, cinema, and still in Africa, Soviet Union, the whole of Asia. Actually, it's that era of film which started this whole trend that used and Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge itself is a term or name from that era, isn't it? But this new era, Shah Rukh Khan, I loved him, I should say, because currently, I don't know. That was to establish the NRI Indians as a political economic force, which was very, very successful.
To answer your question quickly, I think all the fantastic women films we are watching is basically an idea of questioning. It's just that filmmakers are questioning, and that's what the powerful narratives we see here. Because I think as artists, that's our way of questioning as well, isn't it? I mean, I
have to get back to the comment that the NH10 producer or director made, because currently, right now, my hat is I'm a producer. I have a film in this festival, please watch. I don't know, to make a film in this current scenario and the kind of the journey that we come through, how much of that questioning mind remains and how much of it is an art of compromise, So you have to have that question, but you have to put it in a palatable form, that is there.
That's where independent cinema comes in. Yeah, that's where independent cinema comes in, but I mean, I hear how independent it is. That's again a question. Correct.
Correct. Or trying to put our
correct
in a globally powerful organization. I don't know how independent we are.
We have to kind of try and trick the system in order to go out and our voice to be heard. Are there some questions from the audience, or do you like to share your thoughts? Anybody? I think there is a microphone if somebody wants to ask a question. Has anybody watched any of those films? Because me as an Eastern European, I haven't watched them, so it was really interesting for me to take on. Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Oh my gosh. So once I start watching them, I won't stop.
What was it? Kangana announced it, that was the trailer that
The first film? The first one?
Yeah. You can't watch anything else. It's very colorless.
Okay, I think I'm hooked. I'm already hooked. If nobody has a question or comment? Sure.
I had a comment about how women start in the politics. I mean, in Bangladesh, it's very relevant. We have very, powerful and long-running women as prime minister and women as opposition leader, women as this, that. And from women also, I hear that question, or we comment it always, and it's in the paper also, that they all came to politics because of a powerful man, their father or husband, whatever. And we have a lot of complexes about that. Now, I was going through the list of the ministers in Bangladesh, and I can give you examples of many other countries, not only in the East or the Orient or the South or the dark-skinned, in northern countries also. That people do come to politics through a family member or family connection or some kind of a local connection. It's very unlikely for somebody to start a new political life, and that only happened because we just came out of colonialism, and then so we had a first lot of politicians, first crop of politicians. But in an established society, just like a doctor's son or daughter will become a doctor's son, or the lawyer and everything, it will happen in politics also. So I think it is sometimes unfair to the women when it is continuously pointed out, they just became, because of the men. Because most of the men also came because of their dads, or sometimes mothers now. So, this is just a comment or something to remember.
I agree. We tend to be more critical, and they kind of look closer at women. Why do they do this, or why do they have those opinions? But it's not fair, because it's the same with men. And in Bulgaria, where I am from, it's the same thing. Our politicians, all of them, if you look back in their family history, men and women, all of them, they come from somewhere, or they're connected in a certain way. So it's exactly as you say. Father doctor, the son is a doctor. So we should be a little bit more gentle.
But in India, this is very pertinent, particularly the web series Panchayat. So there they show that the woman is a punch, but actually it's the husband who is doing everything. So we have two ministers in India, Lalu Prasad and Rabri Devi. So it's, this trend is very, very common in India, that it's the women who, because there is a certain reservations for women, so they are the one who are actually but it's actually the husband or the fathers who are just making them, but the real work is done by the men. So this is a very real issue and very pertinent issue, which is now being actually depicted and so well in the web series, and so many of. That's why I said it's a fantastic time. Web series OTTs are wonderful platforms which are kind of bringing up these issues. But again, we'll also have to think about how to navigate these issues as well. I mean, representation. That's what cinema, but then again, if we're talking about it as a tool for a social change, then how do we navigate them? But for now, the representation is good enough as well.
I don't know if cinema is actually a tool for change. We can have a complete other discussion about that.
Thank you, ladies. I think we had a wonderful discussion in this early afternoon. If you have no questions, I would like to say thank you once again. Yeah? Oh, there is one question? Okay, please.
Hello, I'm Jayad bin Ashrafim from Jagannath University Department of Film and Television. So I have some questions for you. Please, don't you think we need some more big opportunities like the Academy Awards to acknowledge more female directors and cinematographers to encourage young women entering the film industry?
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, okay. No, you answer. This is a student, you are a teacher.
No, I don't think, I mean, I don't know, this is too generalized comment, and I'm speaking as a woman and not as a, I think I don't need any more privileges. I just need the opportunity. That's all, I think, in one line.
Yeah, I agree. There was something I think that was said in the paper. Like I don't want a privilege. I want to be equal, that's all. I don't want my film to be awarded just because I'm a woman. I want to be awarded because it's a good film.
I think Devjani brought out this point in her paper very effectively in a lengthy manner, that whether or not there is going to be a backlash and, but I think the global context, global in the sense that the larger context of this is, sorry, it's not me this time, is often this argument is also used against the people who you're trying to protect. I mean, like, I just came from United States right now, and the Black Lives Matter, that is another very, I would say, a fundamental event that happened during the pandemic or just before that, is how this is used, that whether or not we are trying to take much more of the cake than we deserve. And now point is that for hundreds and thousands of years, I didn't get anything. I didn't get my right, what was rightfully mine. So now I'm trying to put my, foot in. I'm going to grab that chair that is empty. I want to sit there. But now I want to be kind of equal, and I have to be, again, fair. And this sense of fairness is used against women again. So one of the things you will hear, I mean, we hear a lot, women are very good officers because they're fundamentally honest. Okay, there is this belief. Well, I don't want to be so honest, or, I reject the system who's giving privileges to people who are not quite so honest. So, I don't want, whether or not it is rightfully mine, these kind of questions are often put into our head by the existing system to make sure that so that I don't actually gain my rightful position. And then it will be depicted as, this was her choice. We gave her an opportunity, and she did not take because she thought it's unfair. She's getting it under quota. She's a woman. My point, I would say to our younger women, come and grab that chair, sit on it, and then prove yourself. Don't overthink whether or not you could get it or not, or whether or not it was right, and there is another one who deserved it more, blah, blah, blah. Forget about that. Come sit in that chair on the front row on the table, and then, make your position, or, do what you want to do. So this fairness question often is used very, deceptively.
Thank you so much. Dear audience, dear guests, now we're going to take a 30-minute break, and at 4 o'clock we're going to continue with our next topic, which is going to be really, again, really interesting. It's going to be by Evdokia Moskvina, who is going to talk about her film and how she did it, and about the human rights while doing documentary. I promise you it's going to be really interesting, because he's a friend of mine. I know how well she prepared, so please stay around and listen to her topic. Is she online still? Yes, she's, yeah. And I want to thank again Dr. Devjani Howder for her wonderful paper. Thank you for joining us on Zoom.
So we'll start the next session, and our friend from Russia, Evdokia, she's going to present her keynote paper. So we have half an hour time. Again at 9:30. So from hotel, please start before 9 o'clock. Please, because the morning it's a big traffic, and tomorrow is live, and the topic is about Bangladeshi films. Rehana Mariam Noor, it was in Cannes Film Festival. And this keynote paper presented by Sidney Levin from LA, you know that. So this is a very important discussion is going to be held tomorrow. We are expecting a lot of people, lot of students are coming. So all our foreign dignitaries, they should come, they should participate on time. So tomorrow at 9:30 it will be start at sharp. No mistake, no delay. No shopping. Thank you. Okay. Now it's the time to start. This session is presided by Shamim Akhtar, an independent filmmaker from Bangladesh. She's a very prominent activist from Bangladesh and film society activist, and she made some documentaries, fictions, films, and mainly we've been in touch last 45 years. We had a very good, cordial friendship among us because she's kind of idol lady. I'm very fond of her, Shamim, that is I can tell. And the discussion and the keynote paper presented by Evdokia Moskovina, she's from Russia. And our another discussant is Dalia Alik. She's from Croatia. Student Oscar finalist 21, former festival artistic director and human rights law graduate from Croatia. And also we have a Shreyashi Sengupta, producer, film distribution specialist, managing director, Darpan Global and CEO, Continental Entertainment Singapore. Unfortunately, she is not physically here. She is going to add virtually because she got COVID and she buy the ticket, she got the visa, but she had to cancel it 4 days back. In fact, 15 we started, she got COVID on 13th probably. So that was the, unfortunate very. So she is going to connect via Zoom. So I'm going to hand over this microphone to Shamim Akhtar to continue this session. Yeah, please.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to this session. Hope everybody would participate. And thank you so much for having me here. I would ask my friend here to introduce herself first.
My name is Evdokia Moskvina. I'm a Russian and French-based film director. And the story how I appeared here on that stage is that we were participating in Dhaka Film Festival the last year, but as you all know, it was online. And this year, Mr. Ahmed gently proposed me to come and to make the lecture. And I did not even think twice, because I knew what would be the subject. The subject of discussion would be if we have right to interfere in the life of our protagonists while making documentary. I think it's like the basic subject, and even me, I don't have the open answer because it's too much complicated and there are a lot of details in that subject. So I invite you to discuss together if we could or if we could not interfere in the lives of our protagonists. And first of all, I wish you to show the short trailer of my documentary Forbidden Children, just to explain you a little bit the issue, because my keynote based on this documentary, because it was the personal experience, then I had to interfere in the life of my protagonists. It's 5 small girls from Russia who appeared to be in Islamic State because of their parents died, and girls stayed. And I occasionally recognized their story and started to follow them. And I followed almost 1 year, and we did a documentary out of it. So let's watch the trailer just to make you informed more. Thank you.
Discuss.
Yeah.
Excuse would ask her to introduce herself. Could you please stop? Stop. Sorry. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a good introduction, I believe, a good starting as well. Could you introduce yourself? Say a few words about it. Maybe I had it closer to my mouth.
Okay, hopefully without any additional noises. It's good. Even if we watch the trailer first, it will be completely fine. But in any case, I'm happy to tell something about myself. I'm Dalia Alik from Croatia, film producer, but also human rights law graduate. So this is very interesting discussion because I'm combining both of my passions, both human rights and filmmaking. I have myself made a couple of films, probably the most known one with most awards is The Stamp, that was actually student Oscar finalist, and it's about the refugee story of separation of refugee family from Syria. And right now I'm working on 2 projects, both concerning human rights, refugee story once again, and prosperity and the poverty line, having enough food to survive. So I will very happily discuss from the point of view on human rights, our obligations and responsibilities as filmmakers, especially film producers, but also from the artistic perspective and what it means for the success of film.
Thank you so much, Dalia. And she had been here many a times. Huh? It's okay? Okay. Okay, let's go for this first. Okay. She is. Oh. Thank you so much, Sayoshi, to have you here with us. I hope you can see us as we can at this moment.
Yes, I can. And it's indeed a pleasure that I didn't...
Could you introduce yourself and say a few words?
Yeah. Can everyone...
It's mute. I don't know. Something. You have to unmute it.
No, it is unmuted.
Oh, I see. Probably we couldn't connect.
Is it better now?
Yes, surely.
Okay, wonderful. I have to say a warm thank you because in spite me being down with COVID, I can still attend. And thank you so much, Shobhan Bhai, and everybody who organized that I didn't miss out on this very, very enlightening session that I'm looking forward to. I grew up in Calcutta and I live in Singapore for the last 20 years, and I'm a producer and a distribution expert, having distributed close to 100 over films, mainly South Asian films into Southeast Asia. And at present, and I'm an English and a social work graduate. So every time I find myself looking at content, be it for distribution or producing, there's always a human rights angle that I think echoes at the back of my mind, and sometimes very much at the forefront. I'm working on my own documentary now, getting into the bold platforms of directing, and it's about stories about men. It's not stories about women, but they do have a very strong social work angle. And I'm also producing a feature film which is from a documentary by a woman filmmaker that is now being made into a feature. So I look forward to this session. I look forward to discussing. I'll have to excuse my voice at times because of my illness, but thank you so much again for having me.
Thank you so much. We are looking forward to a very interesting session. And I would like to start right away. It's better that I hand over to you, Ebdu.
So let's watch trailer first to understand the... If we could watch trailer.
If
وقت تبع الله
Что вы ели сегодня?
Сегодня суп.
Суп? Из чего?
Из картошки.
Картошки?
Ben smokta konuşacaktık biz. Sayu malikiu. Kabazar dahkan taka. Da mu wagur duwai.